The sun rises slowly over the hills. Everywhere is gold and sunlight, but still, most lights its hotels are crowded. Their days in dark clouds are shrouded. They don't smile and they never will. Only volunteers get the fill. Empty promises is what they hear. No running water from year to year. Hearts that no one desire. That if there is a Messiah, someday he'll hear their whispered prayer. Covered always bare and scanty. 10 people in a one-bedroom shanty. Forced to sell on the pavement. No vacancy, no employment. Cattle fire cracker from gunshots. Blood that slow when things get hot. Afraid to look out my window to hear voices from the ghetto. Crying, 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 crying. Voices from the ghetto. Crying, crying, crying. Hey, Lord, Lord. Crying, crying. Voices from the ghetto. Mm-hmm. Hey, hey. Oh, help my Father. Oh, Lord. Mothers just hold their head on, boy. And them woman stronger than a wall. A big pusher eyeing she daughter. Son in jail for manslaughter. Too bad for he be a name bad boys. No bail, that's the black man's choice. Like Shadow say, poverty is hell. She little girl child barely start to swell. Some say life is a cycle, but don't trust in no circle. Where will it all end? Only time could tell. Outside the siren keep howling. Inside your belly will growling. Police raid very often. The undertaker measuring a coffin. One night in bed you're sleeping. Next night is a wake that you're keeping. So you're praying to win the lotto, not to hear voices from the... What they doing? Crying. Tell me what they're doing. Crying. Oh, Lord, Lord. Crying, 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 crying. Voices from the ghetto. Help us, Father. We are not a forgotten people, Lord. Stretch forth a hand to us, we pray. Come, God. Hey, come, God. Come, God. Mm-hmm. With dented pride, they sold their honor. Revolutions made politicians pawn. And often their tragic story brings a journalist glory. No wonder they view the world with scorn. Since the day they're born, some call them rebels without a cause. These social victims of unjust laws, but yet we christen we heroes, renegades, desperados, forever knocking on heaven's doors. Hear me! Steel band music shatters the silence, harmony to conquer the violence. Big men run when cops approach, fighting for scraps with the cockroach. Young Turks, they're tough protecting, almost every young girl expecting. So tomorrow, Peck still a borrow. There'll be another voice from the ghetto, trust me. Crying, 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 yes, crying, crying, crying.
Voices from the ghetto, crying,
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 oh pity call, mama.
crying.
Hear them pleading, Lord. Voices from the ghetto. Oh, yeah. Help us, Father. Mm-hmm. Oh. Social amenities, Lord, heaven knows. Opportunities, well, them always close. Can't get work once in white collar. So if you can't stretch your dollar, it's later for you crap or smoke your pipe. You're short or dead from gripe. Life does rape dignity and pride. Children's only bitterness left inside. And every day is a hustle. Arguments are settled with muscle till you're 6 feet deep by 3 feet wide. Children through life keep on drifting. It's something they're smoking or sniffing. Or maybe they're trying to forget this life of mystery and regret. No one to come to the rescue except Capleton and Boujou. So their boom boxes they let go to drum out voices from the ghetto.
Crying,
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 voices from the ghetto,
crying,
crying,
yeah, crying, 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 crying. Voices from the ghetto. Hey, hey. Oh Lord, help us, Father. Oh, hey, hey. As parents struggle to survive, children are neglected and deprived. Illiteracy on the rampage. Some parents never reach college, so with his homework, the child must strive if he wants to stay alive. The dropout rate does come out trumps. As their big trucks skid and hit life bombs, them can't relate education to the daily life of starvation, so they take their chances in the dumps. Every day garbage truck they hopping is all junk and metal they scrapping to get a jump start on them Kobo. Some does get squashed like mosquito. So next time we pass in the beatum in we fancy car air condition, just above the Hummer we motor, we might hear a voice from the ghetto.
crying,
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 hey, crying,
crying,
crying.
voices from the ghetto, crying,
I was born and bred in the ghetto.
crying,
I know what I'm talking about, you know. Ask me, Father. I from the ghetto and proud of it. Crying,
crying,
yeah, crying,
crying,
crying, crying,
from the
crying,
ghetto,
crying, 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 crying.
voices from the ghetto.
Oh, yes, I was born and bred in the ghetto. I know what I'm talking about, you know. I know what I'm talking about. All of us from the ghetto, some of us escape a little bit earlier than some, but we from the ghetto. Arguments are settled with muscle. Voices from the ghetto, the late, still great, singing Sandra Devines, one of the most authentic voices of our time. I'm so glad to be Guyanese. I'm so glad to be West Indian. So glad. So glad. Some tears came as I listened because all of us are familiar with that narrative. All of us. I'm glad to be Guyanese. I'm glad to be West Indian because that music, that calypso, that mother music of our English speaking could only come from our Caribbean. You know, I'm an Africanist. I am. I'm Africanist, but that music couldn't come from Africa, contemporary Africa. It has its roots in Africa. But what we know today as Africa, Calypso couldn't emerge there. Calypso had to emerge from the Caribbean. I'm an Africanist, but I am a West Indian. I'm a Guyanese. Multiple identity. A lot of people say, well, you know, David Einstein about is black this and black that and so on. And my auntie and mother and all of them would throw back and laugh because they know that I'm bigger than that. I'm not just African. I love being African, but I'm Guyanese and not giving that up to nobody. I'm West Indian. I ain't giving that up to nobody who want to ghettoize me. Hey, African. I am African. I'm not giving that up at all, but I'm Guyanese. I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad to be a product of Guyana in a place called the Caribbean. Welcome to Politics 101, our creation. Politics 101 could only come from Guyana in the West Indies. They try to ghettoize Politics 101. Well, it's all they're talking about is race. My auntie and them would throw back and say, is what they belittling me by, so I send you to school, not just to read and write, but to reason. God bless them people. Good evening. It's Tuesday evening. All of you, Rhonda Spencer, Linda Campbell. Linda Campbell, okay, you can attest to that we grow much. We grow much and we go to school together. We go to school together, and you know that we ain't just African. Although we are authentically African, but we more than that, we have to be. We got to be more than the ghetto. I'm proud, as singing Sandra say, to come from the ghetto. But we are more than that. Do not allow people to define who you are. Do not. We learn that from creation. We determine who we are. What Brother Brob said? We are what we are. And that's the way it's going to be. You can't educate for no equal opportunity. Good evening, it's lovely. I think it's last night I mentioned Time Magazine did a review of the Bob Marley video. And this little boy from Bottom Station, Buxton, get quote in Time Magazine. I remember when I first used to see Time Magazine. And if anybody had told me that you would have been talking in Time Magazine, I will tell them, go to hell. But God is good. Don't try to ghettoize me. Put me in some little corner. He's an African. All he talking about his race and African and thing. I've been to school. I've been to school. I used to then the bottom house of the school before the bell ring. But when the bell ring, I gone upstairs. Some people stay downstairs after the bell ring. Gone upstairs. Good evening. Tonight we're going to be doing it. GHK Lall is here tonight. He has not been here for a little while, but he is He's here tonight, and he will be sharing with us. Wherever you're joining us from, wherever you're joining us from, wherever you're joining us from, whether you're joining us from Albert Morgan, Flash Gordon, but look, Flash and me, we've been disagreeing in recent, and it's so lovely. It's so lovely. I remember years ago, let me tell you all this story. Years ago, Chris Ram, they pulled Jack Dio in for fitness. He put a charge for me, a private charge for me for racism. And I traveled with Chris Ram to quarantine, Wim police station. They had Jack Dio there in shackles and so on. You know, all of we, I been in my shackles too, you know. All of we got to do the time for you in politics. It come with the turf. But I went there with Chris to give solidarity in his charge against Christopher Ram, his charge against Jack Dio for racism. And when the story upstairs was finished and we came down in the yard, a man came to me dressed nice in the African thing and so on, and introduced himself to me. And he said, I was home and I was watching the proceedings here and I saw you. And I jump in my car from number 51 and I drive to Wim to come and see you. Flash Garden. That's what you call real supporters. And from then, Flash and I, we've been disagreeing in recent time, but that's real trooper. And we took a picture, we gaff and so on. So Flash Garden is not a recent come upon the scene. He been a trooper forever. Flash, you remember that was long, boy. I think that was about 78 years ago. You know. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. The teacher strike is off. And it's the morning after. And you know, quarterbacking, the Americans call it. All the analysis we're going to be doing about what should have happened, what shouldn't happen, and so on. We are Guyanese, we are Caribbean people. That's part of our being. We got put in with 2 cents. Some say you put in your 3 cents. Some say you put in your 5 cents. But we got put in with little thing. And, you know, there is a discussion, should the teachers have come off the road? Should they have gone back to strike, gone back to work without getting any commitment and all of that kind of stuff? It's been raging. And understandably so. We are Guyanese. We are Caribbean people. And they put we so. We don't left nothing. Just like that. We got to analyze. You hear what I'm telling you? I should lie down on my bed late at night. A little by I live at the line top, and them big minds who come then argue from the Vietnam War to the war between Pakistan and India. I used to hear Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. I hear them names since I was a boy. Them big man get a pocket radio, and what they used to listen? BBC. Yeah. We always have an opinion. That's why we are Guyanese. That's why we are Caribbean. I not giving up my Guyanese-ness, my Caribbean-ness to anybody. I'm not giving it up. Don't matter how they try to push me and say, I know you talk about race and Africa and so on. I'm not giving that up to them because I'm jealous of that bad. I'm jealous of my African thing bad. But we are more than that. and we always have an opinion. And the opinion sometimes just land we in all kind of people bad book and good book and so on. They got a man nowadays every Thursday, he sit down and he laugh himself and he views from left, right, and center. It's views in politics. And I am determined to not allow that man to normalize blues in politics. That's why we do Politics 101, and you come here on Politics 101 to hear hey. You know when them big man and big woman all forgive speech when you see the ladies and gentlemen, what an auspicious occasion as we gather here to bring families together and to bring the bride and the groom together. And all of us here are dressed splendorously. Oh, Jesus Christ. And you see the throwback. So, and that word auspicious, I later found out was one the word Burnham used to use. So when the man come for give a speech at wedding and they use the word and they do the mouth, they do the mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, what an auspicious occasion. The suit. What an auspicious occasion. We always have something to say, and we have to have something to say. You don't go through 300 and more years of enslavement, another 150 years of colonization, and in between that, almost 100 years of indentureship, and don't have anything to say. We have to have something to say. And we got to get plenty to say. That is why we create Calypso. It's the only music that could say it in a way that we say it. You could say what you want without saying what you want. And when we see our government today trying to beat Calypso out of our children, we know that they're gone rogue. GHK Lall said, well, if they had to deal with chalk dust, if they had to deal with chalk dust in Guyana, what would have happened? Dr. Hollis Liverpool, the chalk dust, he used to call Eric Duffy. And Eric Williams said, let the jackass breathe. He called Burnham, Manley, and Barrow 3 blind mice. And then he said, Manley said, the 3 blind mice that Eric Williams talking about is the 3 deputy that he get by his side, who blind. Errol Mohabir, Kamaluddin Mohammed, and George Chambers. And when George take over, Chalky called George Dunsey. And when A&R Robinson take over, Chalky said the driver can't drive. He get a big maxi with 36. 36 passenger. You know, the NAR win with 36 seats, and A&R Robinson, he said, and the driver can't drive. If Jack Dion then had to deal with Chalk Dust and Sparrow and Stallion and Singing Sandra and Calypso Rose and Juke and Explainer and them little bad by Crow and Watchman and Sugar Aloes and them. What? Look. Anyhow, y'all ready? Y'all ready? All right, let's do it. I put on the screen here takeaways from the teacher's strike. Takeaway from the teacher's strike. The teacher's strike. Let me bring in GHK Lall. I keep him waiting for a little while, and that is part of the punishment for being tardy. Not tardy as in late, but he has not been here for a while. You see, he in GHK start small. Now he's big. He all of everybody want the village vice, Kaichor News, Stabrook News, this news, he up on radio, he up on TV, and so on. And he has been neglecting Politics 101. But he's back. What were you say? The prodigal son is back. Mr. Lall, good night.
Good night to you, sir. And good night to our fellow Guyanese and our fellow West Indians. You know, prodigal son, I thought I want the audience to hear this. My first words of greeting to you were, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Right? And you come back and says, you forsake me. And by, the, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and make the best of the new year. We are in March. Yes, it's been that long. And forget about Stabrook News and Kaichor News and radio and television and Village Voice. A man has to know his roots. A man has to know his roots. And Politics 101 is part of my roots.
Thank you
It's part
very
of my
much,
roots.
my brother.
I haven't
Thank you.
been there from the beginning, and I've known Dr. Hines, David Hines, for a while now. And let me say this: the brotherhood is big, and the brotherhood is thick, and the brotherhood is deep, and that speaks for itself. So even, you know, Dionne Warwick said something about Burt Bacharach and Hal David. She had sung a lot of their music
Yes.
back in the 60s. And something happened between them and they broke up. And they didn't speak to each other for 10 years. And then they met out of the blue. And she said, you know, we picked up from where we left off. It was like if nothing had happened between us. You know, we didn't have any breakup here. Let me reassure you folks.
Thank you
But
very much.
I am here. Circumstances intervened. You know, you got to forgive me for age and all those things. But the time that I got is you alone. As my little chap does in my own little stupid way. And whoever's, you know, Bob Marley, you know, one love, everybody.
One love, everybody. And they mentioned their sister Dionne Warwick, that profound song that all of us of
Yeah.
our generation, don't make me over.
Yeah.
Profound. Don't make me over. Don't
Yeah.
make me over. Sister Dionne Warwick. What a sister. What a sister. Brother Gabriel, let's get going. The teacher strike was called off. Well, let me frame it. The teachers succeeded in getting our institutions to work, that brought the government to the table to negotiate wages and salary, to restore the principle of collective bargaining. And they have gone back and they will go back into the classroom pending the outcome of the collective bargaining. But they've struck an important blow, that they've helped to restore collective bargaining. And you know, I don't know if you remember, when you just come back, a mutual friend of ours arranged for us to meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it must have been, I can't remember if it was Pegasus or
Pegasus.
one of those. It was a Pegasus.
Pegasus, yeah.
And we went way back then, when you were just back and you were meeting people and feeling your way and trying to get back and so on and so forth. Here we are. Your opinion piece. The takeaways from the teacher strike. Let's start there. Your takeaways from the teacher strike.
Well, first of all, 29 days. We lost 29 days. Our children did, our teachers did, our nation did. We can't afford that. And what should have happened on day one happened on day 30 or 31, whichever that was yesterday. We came to that place of conversation. Instead of confrontation, we came to that place of conversation where we can sit respectfully in the same room and speak thoughtfully to each other. And that's what was done under the auspices of senior counsels Loku and Robin Stobie. I happen to know Robin Stobie from my church. I know him fairly well. I know him from a cancer engagement with a group headed by Dr. Latoya Gooding. So we've had our interactions. Senior Counsel Loku, I do not know. So we owe a duty of a depth of gratitude to these two gentlemen for agreeing to spend their time to bring us together and to bring us to this place of agreement, that we can say that the things that push the teachers onto the streets, money, better working conditions, respect for their profession, those things were tabled, and those things are what are taken away now for further discussion between the ministry and the teachers union. Mr. Mark Light, president of the GTU, never met him, never spoke to him. I think he did the right thing by saying, let us call off the strike. Let us get off the street. Let us get back into the classroom, and let us get to the conference room. Let us have the conversation about money, about what is fair to the teachers, about what is right, what is due to them, what is part and parcel of a collective bargaining mechanism that should have been honored from the beginning, from years ago. It should not have come to this. So I am with Mr. Light on this, the president of the GTU, like I was with the leader of the opposition, Mr. Norton, when he said, I am as one with Guyana, with the government of Guyana, in the face of the developments from our neighbors in Venezuela. There are some things you don't quibble about. The last thing that Mr. Light wanted or the teachers needed was for the government to say, and it would have said it, well, we went so far as to meet with you, and you dragged your feet and you're holding on, it's all or nothing, and therefore you didn't get all, so you settled for nothing, and so the strike goes on. I think he was statesmanlike. I think he arrived at that place, and he took his people to that place, knowing he was going to get some blows, but leadership is about absorbing the blows and standing up straight and keep going doggedly forward, not obnoxiously forward, not totally in yourself forward, but the bigger picture, children, teachers, the state, what is necessary here to bring us to. He didn't want to give his opponents, and unfortunately it has to be opponents. He didn't want to give them that ground to say, well, you are not worth negotiating with, you are not a good faith partner, and as such, I thought that was the right thing there. He did that. So now the first takeaways that were for Mr. Stobie and Mr. Loku. The second or third, whatever you want to call it, is for Mr. Light. And I think as I went down, I said, I heard Mr. Ramdani from the Attorney General's chamber said, let's move forward. The government wants to move forward in a conciliatory spirit. Now that is a magic word, Dr. Hines. Fellow Guyanese, conciliatory, the non-recriminatory, the outstretched hand, those are the things that have been lacking from our conversation in this country. When the PPP government, regrettably, I must say this, when they are on one side and others are on the other side, the teachers union, a media contributor like me, a gentleman of the stature, whether an Africanist or a West Indianist, or an academic, a logician, when we are on the other side of that, we are seen and perceived and held as enemies. We are not enemies. We are people who want better for Guyana. We don't want better for ourselves. I don't think Dr. Hines wants better for himself. I don't want anything better for myself. I will take it. But here's the story. For the greater good, don't look upon the teachers' union as an enemy. Look upon them as a partner that will use this education that we say is the key to carry this nation to someplace else. So I'm glad to hear Mr. Ramdani on behalf of the government, speak of a conciliatory spirit. Now, the proof will be in the pudding. The proof will be how conciliatory this is. What I didn't like, as I said in the opinion piece, was that in clause 3, it said something about discussions will go on within a reasonable period of time. Reasonable period of time has its tricks, has its mists and hazes, and has its nooks and crannies where people can run into. And this government, if anything, it's very, very wise in the ways of the street, meaning that reasonable period of time can go on to December. That's not going to work. Reasonable period of time is not next week, but it's a decent enough amount of time that there should be some back and forth, some exchange, some give and take into what should go into a package, a compensatory package for the teachers, so that they get something, the government gets something, and the nation gets something. So I think I put all of those together, and I'm sure there are some things left out. And I said, this is where the takeaways from the teacher strike. Here is the biggest takeaway for me, my fellow Guyanese. We must learn to talk. We must think more about how we can talk more. Not over each other, not across from each other, not behind each other's back, but with each other. With each other, we must learn to do so. We must not run to the United States. I am so glad that two Guyanese, Loku and Stobie, Mr. Loku and Mr. Stobie, were part of something that we can say is a resolution that is our own. We must talk more. We must curse less. We must revile less. We must abuse less. And this is a little preview of what's going to come later. When we do so, we are a nation that is maturing. We are a people that is growing. We are students of life that are thinking at a higher plane, trying for a higher ground. And this is what I see that Mr. Stobie and Mr. Loku brought us to, and Mr. Light agreed to, and the government, to give it credit, it also said, we want to be a part of this. Let's all be a part of this, and let's do what's right for this country.
GHK Lall, given his takeaways from the teachers' strike. And the strike, for me, is still ongoing. The teachers are going back into the classroom, but the strike is still on because the issue has not been settled yet. But we have crossed the first hurdle, and that is to get to the table to talk. And remember, the teachers were asking for two things. Come and let's talk. Collective bargaining, a sacred right. And they were asking for better wages and salary. We are now at collective bargaining. Wages and salaries are there. Gabriel, I was on a sister program this morning, and there were two responses we got from the viewers who were calling in, and I think most of those viewers are here tonight. And my takeaway from listening to these viewers was, one, many of them have lost faith in the institutions and the leaders of our country. Despite the enormous work that has been done to get us to the table, the work by the teachers, the work by the union, the work by the court, Justice Kisun. Let us not forget him. He's pivotal here. They went to the court, the teachers went to the court to ask for relief. The government was beating up on the union by saying, we're not going to check off money for you. They're beating up on the teachers and say, you stay out there on strike, we're going to take your money, we're going to thief your money. And they went to the court to ask for relief. And the court granted them relief. But the court did something else. When the executive arm of the government attempted to flout the court's order, the court ordered the CEO into court and whipped him, not physically, but whipped him legally for all to see. And he apologized. But the court went further. They said, the Ministry of Labor, they didn't say this is not my words, the Ministry of Labor has abdicated its constitutional duty to bring the two sides together. And the court has a residual power to do it. And I'm going to invoke that. The teachers didn't ask him to do it. That's not what they went to him for. They went to him because they were being beaten, and they went to him to ask him to use judicial review to say to the co-equal branch of government, you can't beat up on your citizens like that. But Justice Kissoon went much further. Oh, that brother reminds me so much of one of my heroes, Thurgood Marshall, who said, my role on the bench is not to contract rights, but to expand the rights. And that I'm dealing with a constitution that is a living constitution. And I think I saw glimpses of Thurgood Marshall from Justice Kissoon. He was not asked to do that, but he set the mediation in process. And here we are. But even though all of that has happened, a lot of our supporters, many of them here, are skeptical. They are skeptical. And what it says to me is that they have lost confidence in the institutions, that even when the institutions are working in their favor, they are skeptical. And that's a bad place to be. But it says how much work that you have to do, I have to do, and so many of us have to do. And that's one. The second thing I heard, the teachers should not have gone off the streets. They should have stayed there until the money settled. And that's a level of radicalism that makes me proud. I'm a radical. I'm a radical. And I may be responsible partly for helping to bring that radicalism to the fore. But as I said this morning, radicals cannot be stupid radicals. Radicals cannot be reckless radicals. We are radicals because we go to the root of things. But there are times when we have to recognize that instead of going straight to the door, we have to go around the door sometimes. And it's a combination of that radicalism, which has partly to do with the way in which this government has beaten up on opposition supporters. It has driven them into radical directions. It partly has to do, I suppose, with people like myself, who have helped to socialize and to say there's no shame in being radical. But also the way in which this government has sapped the energies of our people and to push them in directions where they have lost confidence in our institutions, even when the institutions are working for us. And that, I think, are two takeaways from this for me. And I would like you to comment on them.
Personally speaking, I myself have lost a tremendous amount of confidence in our institutions, many institutions of the state. I'd love to speak well of the Guyana Police Force. I'd love to speak well of the Guyana Environmental Protection Agency. I'd like to see more Judge Sandil Kissoons in the Guyana judiciary. And those are only a snapshot. We can talk about GCOM. We can talk about the wider government apparatus. We can talk about Office of the President, that houses predators or Office of the Prime Minister under cover of government service. We can talk about the cabinet. If we do not have confidence, a reasonable level of confidence in our institutions, then what have we got? But, as much as I heard that first takeaway, Brother David, from the show that you were part of this morning, I must say, I have that skepticism. I have that dubiousness, and it's very, very deep. But I've got to be careful. We all have got to be careful, and I'm glad you said that. Quite a few of those people are in the audience tonight. We've got to be careful that we don't cross over into the line of hopelessness. Hopelessness is an evil, and hopelessness is despair, and hopelessness is where they want you to be, because then they got you. Then they got you. They got you where they want you. Do not let anybody define who you are going to be. You know who you are. I know who I am. And nobody can make me over. Right? It's not Dionne Warwick talking, right? It's me and you. Let's have this conversation where we are reaching you. Brother David from his studio, me from my little home, my little humble home. And I'm grateful for the privilege of sharing with you in this channel. When we reach that stage that our government, when our people can be so critical of the government, can be so skeptical of our government and of the institutions of the state, then what we have is not a government. What we have is tyranny.
Yes.
What we have is tyranny, or the first creeping steps of tyranny. And it's not creeping anymore, it's not the first steps. I know I've been a victim of that. I have been a victim of that. They try, but you cannot make them, allow them, give them permission to conquer you. You've got to stand up to them. When they dig deep, you've got to rise higher. When they go low, this is where we must be. All of us must be. I must not be your forerunner. I must not be your only voice. You must be the voice that lifts me up. Skepticism has its place. It's healthy doses of it. It's what brings about change. Radicalism. A sensible radical is a rational one. A rational radical is one that produces results. Do not let anybody pigeonhole you. If the label has to be radical, then wear it proudly. Wear it proudly, my brothers and sisters. Because who are the ones calling us radicals? Who? Who are the ones that are calling you, or Brother David, or somebody else a radical? What are they calling me? A traitor? What does that mean? I'm a traitor to the race? I'm a traitor to the tribe? By God, I hope that I'll never be a traitor to the country, to this country that's got me named Stringberry hay. That is why I'm back here. That is why I could stay silent and rock in my hammock and listen to my Sam Cooke and Dionne Warwick, right, and Chuck Doss. But here I am, coming out, and whether I write or I speak, and I'm sitting here, and whenever people have come to me, Brother David, I don't want to be a professional talk show contributor. I want to go to my church. I want to deal with the children. I want to deal with the dogs. I want to deal with the man in the street and say, how you doing, brother? What does I'll mean to you? That is what I want to do, and let him tell me. Let the 80-year-old tell me who got diabetes and got to get insulin that, I'm managing because I'm feeling it. But when those are the things that I want to be. These things here that we are doing, they have their value. They have their value, but we need more of you. Radicalism must be rational. Radicalism must be profound. It must be well thought out. Don't let other people predict you. Do not let other people predict you. So here's this. The strike. We are on this business of the strike. I think there's a time to strike, and there's a time to talk money, the time to talk conditions, the time to talk honoring agreements made, constitutional provisions. That time should have been from day one. That time should have been from years ago. Years ago, not 29 days ago. It should have been with the Public Service Union. It should have been with the other unions. It has not been, and so we've given birth to things like unilateralism in trade unionism and imposition. Why in a democracy that is so proud to talk about this and that, why are we talking about these two words? Why are we are talking about sanctity of contract, and we must honor that. Why are we not honoring the contract between the government and the teachers? Why are we not doing that? What is that? Are they children of a lesser God? Are they not people? Do they not qualify for the honorable and respectable treatment of the government of the day. That is where I have a hang up. That is what drives people to radicalism. That is what introduces skepticism at a very, very deep level. And I can understand it. I can relate to it. I can even, let me be frank, condone it. I can condone skepticism and radicalism when you push people against the wall and there is no way for them to go, then they will bounce back right in your goddamn face.
Yes, and you know, GHK, I told the story this morning. I'm going to tell it here again. A former, 2 weeks ago, I was on the same morning program. Excuse me, and we were dealing with this very issue. And I made that statement there that, you know, that I am a radical, but I'm not a stupid radical, and radical must be tactical and strategic also. And when I got off the program, I got a message from a former PPP minister quoting that from me. I said it, I didn't know it meant much. But here was a former PPP minister taking my quotation and sent it to me. And the message was clear. The message was clear. And that is that we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to hold our country together. And in many regards, what that minister was recognizing was that the party which he has served all his life is pushing a section of this population to the edge. And people like myself, who the government, you know, is talking all kind of horrible things about people like you and others. We are the ones who have to hold our people together, hold them from going over the edge. And that brother, that minister, was glad that I was able to say, yes, I condone your radicalism. I think I contribute to shaping it, to nurturing it. But that radicalism has to be a constructive radicalism. And the irony is that those of us who they're calling destructive people are the ones. Some of my own supporters here sometimes say, Dr. you're getting soft, right? And I understand that, because if I were sitting where they were, I might have said the same thing. Dr. you're getting soft, right? But here's the point, Gabriel, and you've been making it here all night. Do we want a Guyana where we all can live in a civil way? Or do we want a Guyana that is destroyed? Or do we want a Guyana in which we live in an uncivil way? And I think that's the choice we have. And I want a Guyana where we all can live civilly. As I said at the beginning of the program, you ain't gonna get Calypso coming out of Calcutta. You ain't gonna get Calypso coming out of Accra. You ain't gonna get Calypso coming out of Zambia. Yes, the roots may have been there because our forebears brought the origins of it across. But you ain't gonna go nowhere in Madras or Mumbai and hear a Chuck Doss or a young Bill Rogers or a young 6-year-old singing, I get something on my chest, 6.5% can walk. You aren't getting that in Madras and Calcutta. You aren't getting in Accra or Kinshasa. It has to come from Guyana and the Caribbean. And I am not giving up this Guyana or Caribbean to Jagdio and Orphan and them. I'm jealous of it. I'm jealous of Guyana. I'm jealous of the Caribbean as I'm jealous of Africa. And I ain't giving up nothing to them. So when they want to ship me off to Africa, I say, all he talking about is race and black people. I'm telling them, no, sir, as the Jamaican will say, no, sir, I staying right here. I staying right here. What the old Gregor singer say? I'm Banya, I na leave ya for go a Canada. No way, sir. Me pata boil ya. And so forth. And thanks to technology, we can be in Brooklyn and still be in Guyana. Hey, as we say in Buxton, when you left Buxton to go to Brooklyn, it's like leaving Buxton and going next door to Annandale and so on. No, me pata bailia, me belly must full ya, and we are not ceding Guyana to them. And so therefore, the teachers have showed us the way. They've brought us to this point, and we are ready for round 2 of this struggle. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Thank the ancestors. Thank whoever your deity is. Thank God for Guyana. Thank God for the teachers. Young women taking the burden of this country on their shoulders, standing in that hot sun with their mouth pointed straight in front of them and their chest in the air, and saying to all and sundry, we ain't giving up this. They didn't have to be as conscious as the Black Powerists of the 1970s. They didn't have to be with all the consciousness of Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X and Dr. King and so on, but they have enough consciousness to lead us in this time, in this perilous time. Young women of all races, Amerindian young women, East Indian young women. And as I said, I ain't one of those who saying, forget about race. Hold on to your race if you love it. Vote for the PPP if you want to. Vote for the PNC if you want to. Proclaim your Indianness and your Africanness if you want to. But also proclaim your class consciousness or your class position. I am a teacher. I am a worker. And I vote for you. But when you're assaulting workers, I am going to stand up and put my body as a barricade against your onslaught. And that's what those teachers did. God bless them. God bless them. God bless them. They've opened a new horizons for us. And they've pushed back that horizon so that we can see farther and farther. We can see. Thank God for those teachers. I just want to say that we are eternally indebted to them. And the teachers would not be out there had it not been for the rest of you, the phalanx, standing there, whether you are on the streets of Brooklyn or you are in the cold of Toronto, Canada, or you're hustling a dollar in St. John's, Antigua, or Bridgetown, Barbados, against the odds. But every day, every night, you're watching and you're peeping still, and you're standing with your teachers, constantly lifting them up, lifting them up. We are one. We are one. I don't want a Guyana where race will disappear. I want a Guyana that will acknowledge its multiracialism and put it to good work. And that's what I saw in this teacher strike. I am glad. If you all think I was running away and leaving Guyana, those teachers make me change my mind. I ain't going no way. I ain't going no way. I'm staying right here. You know what? And why? Me picnic must nyam. Me mama must nyam. Me daddy must nyam. I am not going nowhere. I'm quoting there the mighty short Emmanuel McLean, the great Calypsonian from Antigua and Barbuda. Gabriel, anything about the teacher strike you want to say before we move on to anything else?
Well, I mean, you covered a lot of territory there. And yes, I was there a couple of times, just briefly. And I saw those young people out there in the middle of the day, very, very hot for February. And I mean, they held their ground. They showed us that the tide that looks overwhelming can be held back. They showed us that when you you don't have to cave in, that you can take a stand. You can take a sensible stand. You can retain your dignity. You can demand respect, and you will get it. It will not be easy. It will be a hard, tough slog. 29 days ain't easy with people calling the strike illegal, with people taking out your money, threatening to take out your money, with people cutting off the union dues, with people disobeying the order of the court. I mean, so many things have been learned here. I think the teachers' strike enabled us to look into our national soul
Mhm.
and to rebuild our psyche from the ground where it was, to bring us to this place that there's a confidence in the workers, in the working class of Guyana, that you know what? If you hold your head and if you stand proud and you stand your ground, you will be able to overcome. The process has now started. We've made a step past the court appointed mediation. Now we go into the nitty gritty of collective bargaining. And I hope and I pray and I call on the parties, do so in good faith. Let us do so as a tribute to those people in the Essequibo Barbies and in Demerara who came out in their numbers and stood there through the many long hours of the day. I think that's the best tribute that the government can give them and the teachers' representatives can give them. Let us get something for everybody that has songness to it.
Gabriel, GHK Lall. Gabriel, what lessons can we learn as Guyanese from the mayhem, the genocide, and they are not words left for us to describe what's happening to our brothers and sisters in Gaza, there in the Middle East? What lessons we Guyanese can learn from that continuing human degradation that is happening there, and the rest of the world, the global institutions seem helpless,
To our
maybe
list,
unwilling to do something about it? Talk to me.
to our listeners, to you, my brother, it is this: colored people, non-white people, black people, and I include myself there. Know your damn place. Know where you stand in the firmament. Know where you are on the ladder. And that's what Gaza is about. Children starving, old people buried in rubble, hospitals being bombed, people being mowed down by you, David, and my taxpayers' dollars, the armaments and the ordinances and the
Mhm,
sophisticated
mhm.
weaponry. Good Lord, where is the civility and the Christianity and the decency that you have taught me, or you think that you have taught me? Why is it that me, the student, have to be talking about you to this who have held yourself out as teachers to me? America, where are you? How beautiful are you now? Europe, where are you? Mother country, England, what has happened to your breasts that I used to suckle or you used to suckle me? Whichever it was. What happened to those people? They don't count. Those people could be me. Those Gazans could be you, David. It's just an accident of geography that we're in
Mhm.
Guyana. I mean, come on, we've got to quibble over a ceasefire. I encourage you. Here's a fact. Go to the United Nations Security Council history and look at how many times the Americans have used, my fellow Americans have used their veto power to defend Israel. I'm talking in general, not
Yes.
just Gaza here right now. Look at the percent, look at the numbers, the raw numbers. Every time from the population of the United States exercise of its veto power in the Security Council. And then look how much of that is for Israel. I mean, we could talk all night about lobby and APAC and whoever else. Here's the bottom line. In the humanity that is integral to all of us, where is our conscience? Where is our conscience with those people who are treated worse than animals, who are being reduced to crawling on their bellies and to literally being on their knees and to, what do we want them to do? Beg? What do we want them to do? Roll over and say, okay, go ahead, do what you want with me? I mean, what price has to be exacted here? I understand the geopolitics. Look, Hamas and Islamic Jihad has been a thorn in the side of and proxy wars from with Iranian backing into Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley and through Syria and now in the Palestinian camp. Yes, yes, yes. But at the end of this is Israel is being a proxy, I think, for America here. And I don't want to get into that. I want to look on the human factor here. The fact is, these in Serbia, in Yugoslavia, the old Yugoslavia, if you can recall well, Dr. Hans, and you're a student of these things, they went there
Mm-hmm.
with their aircrafts, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
for
Yes.
Bosnians and Serbians, etc. Because of what?
Skin color.
Right? Rwanda,
Mhm.
800,000 in 100 days, and everybody said, we ain't know nothing. Or
Yeah.
they turn their face. They didn't want to see and they didn't want to hear. They didn't want to smell the blood. Who cannot smell the blood now in the days of the internet in Palestine? Why is it that the Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are talking in such muted terms? And what's the fellow's name from? He's not from India. He's heritage from Rishi Sunak in England. Are
Mm-hmm.
talking in these muted, nuanced terms about conditional ceasefire. You're not doing anybody a favor. We're talking about lives here. We're talking about your own standards of civility, your own claims of moral superiority. Where have all of those fled now? The lessons from there is that when we stand in the way and when we raise our hands and say, how about treating me at the standards? That's all I'm saying, not better. I'm saying treating me at the standards that you have been teaching all along and that you say you represent all along. How about letting me be a part of that? How let me experience that? That's the story and the lesson of Gaza. After all the bombs and all the newspaper articles and all the commentary, that's what it comes down to. That have we lost in the fog of war our sense of humanity? And by that I mean America and Europe. I mean America and Europe that teaches us about what is not barbaric, what is civilized. And that's one of the lessons. They haven't taught me anything. What they've taught me is how hypocritical and how conveniently hypocritical and impotent America can be when it suits their purposes, suits its purposes.
GHK Lall here tonight, really laying it out as he always does. He always, as so many of you are saying here, your favorite columnist, you like his style of writing, and I know a lot of supporters of the other side are on this program. I'm surprised at some of them who tell me. I'm not talking about the trolls and tropes or whatever you all call them. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about real people who come onto this program. You all are here. You all are here. Some of you are here, and you all are listening to this program. We are appealing to our dignity. We're appealing to our dignity. GHK Lall here helping us to do that tonight. GHK, we continue to deal with the incidents of a kind of cuss down politics that even people like myself who come from deep in the ghetto and I hear cuss from the time I was born, cuss been all around me. So I can't pretend that cuss is something alien to me and cuss down and so on. But even Miss Rose and Miss Uriel and my auntie Cecilia and them who were real cuss boards, even then they would frown on the kind of cussing coming from the vice presidency, the kind of lifting up your frack, as they would say in the village, and carry on. I mean, even them old cuss boards that I grew up wrong and so on, expressive language, as I've come to describe them, colorful language, they would frown on the kind of custom. And you have taken on that thing frontally because I think you've recognized the danger of it, the danger of someone in high office, in high places, really descending to that. You and I, we are not far apart in age, and many of us here. I mean, you didn't have to love Burnham But there is a way when he spoke, you felt that he was taking us to another place of expression. You didn't have to like Jagan. He was not the greatest orator. But when he spoke, you felt, you felt, you felt that we were not losing it. And then the others like the Walter Rodneys and so on came late and so on. But we are always accustomed to a kind of political communication that you say, and by, hear the man there? But this thing that we have here by our vice president, how dangerous is it as we try to navigate our way into this new place of a petrol state? How dangerous is it, Gabriel?
Well, it is dangerous if it is allowed to go unchecked. It becomes more dangerous, my fellow Guyanese, if it is allowed to go unchallenged. For too long, the vice president, and I call him my brother, I call him my brother publicly. Some people have disagreed with me. They say you mute what you're saying, you dilute what you're saying. But no, I cannot be disloyal to my standards. I have a responsibility to be his keeper. Some people may think that I'm trying to help him rush further and deeper into the gutter. What good is that for Guyana? It may not, I don't care about me, but what good is that for this nation given where this man stands in the constellation that is this country? It is better to remove the scales from his eyes and help him to see that, hey, brother, you in heavy. I'm going to carry you. That's the Hollies from 1970, I think.
Oh, yes.
So here's, and we are waxing music now, but here's real life, folks, real life. Mr. Jagdeo needs to get a grip on himself. This is not, whether we had oil or not, but because we have oil and we have the eyes of the world upon us, he needs to conduct himself at a level that makes people sit back and say, well, they do have a statesman down there. What do Alistair Routledge and Jane Miller, Excellency Jane Miller, Excellency Nicole Di Terrio is now new here. But what do they say when they get a snippet of what they hear coming out of this man every Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
It is beyond vile. It's beyond reprehensible. It's beyond what is repugnant. It is that he revels now in making an utter spectacle of himself, that he doesn't care, that he knows and he seems to have liked it. He seems, the situation, as far as I am concerned, is that somebody close to him needs to say, you are going down the wrong road and we will not allow you to take us down with you.
Yeah.
My position to Brother Jagdev is straightforward. Hear those who don't have nothing that they want from you, who have nothing to gain from you. You can gain from them. Teacher strike. Certainly, we hear about the official president and all of that business, and I'm not going to denigrate anybody, but here's what I'm going to say. Think about the difference it would have been if the honorable vice president of this country had said, well, we need to change the temper of the language. We need to be not about what is confrontational, but what is communicative. We need to be what is embracing instead of what is pushing away. But there was none of that. What was there is pouring gasoline on the fire every Thursday, I don't know, for 1 or 2 hours. I have come in for my share, but I'm happy that I've been found worthy to be tested in adversity. Now, if that sounds scriptural and non-musical, it is scriptural, my brother. And that's where I am. So the more you try to smear me, the more it's going to bounce right back in your face. Because I'm going to stand up and others are looking on and say, well, what really has gotten into him to get to this stage with this man or this commentator or this newspaper or this leader. I think he has gone too many bridges past where he should have been. I think he needs to take stock if he's capable and calm down. I think that he may not be capable of that anymore. I think delusion and paranoia has stepped in. I think that there's something going on in his head that, whether it's his relationship with the Americans, and just like what is happening in Gaza, these things all have a relationship. These people are not your friends. They have interests, and their interest is our patrimony. My interest is that we get as much as we can from our patrimony that is fair to all Guyanese, and that the explorers and the producers also get what is due under capitalist norms, under profit making norms. It cannot be so one sided. We have a leader that has to be the standard, that moral level. And Dr. Jagdeo has not been that. Far from it. We need to have that level to where things like the teacher strike, like what happened in Mocha, like what happened elsewhere, can be elevated in the hope that, you know what, by we can get something out of this. We there in good hands. It's like you could have gone to Bornholm, whether you like it or not, or Cherry, and you walk away feeling, even if you don't get nothing, that you get something.
Yeah.
Instead of you there and you feel that just by raising your hand, you'll get your head chopped off. Well, I've gone past that saying and said, listen, you do your damnedest, you do your best. I could care less. But the fact is, he has become, the Vice President Jagdeo has become so predictable that it is a crying shame. The man does an injustice to this country. He does an injustice to his party. He has done serious damage to himself. Is he beyond redemption? I say no. Because as a black woman taught me, younger than me, she said, sir, nobody's beyond redemption. That is part of me thing too. And I am grateful for that correction, because at one time I said, I ain't shaking the blasted man hand. I ain't want in the same place. He come in the same room and go walk out. I have changed. I may shake his hand. I may say, hello, sir, how are you? And that's it. I don't want to be nobody friend. But I want him to do what is right by this country. He has taken this abuse, this vilification, this demonization, this criminalization too far and too long. It needs to stop. The PPP, I know he's the PPP, but somebody in the PPP has to be able to say to him, brother, leader, comrade, slow down, man. Cut this thing out. Let me go about this thing in a different way. But nobody has so far summed up that courage to do so, and to bring about the difference that we needed. Look, a changed Jagdeo, as cunning as he is, I don't think he's as wise as people hold him out, but he's definitely more cunning than people give him credit for. He's the most cunning among us. A changed Jagdeo could make a difference in this country. That's what I am working for.
GHK Lall, my brother, thank you very much. It's good
Thank
to have
you.
you back.
Thank
And
you.
I will see you in a couple of weeks' time. In the meantime, keep the faith.
All
Keep
right.
the faith.
Thank you.
Keep the
And
faith.
good to
Keep
be
the faith.
back with you, and God bless everyone.
Yes, and as a churchman, as we say, pray for me. Pray for
I
us.
will.
Pray for our country.
Good. And you pray
Uh,
for me too.
I
Good.
will always do, because I'm a churchman too. You know, I don't always, I just gotta wait till I come to Guyana to go to church. Some of the other, when I'm there in America, I don't feel the
You
same
don't
thing.
feel the vibes.
I don't feel the vibe, but when I come to Guyana, I just go to church,
Uh,
you know what I mean, and so on, and I feel the congregation, if you
yeah.
will, when
Yes.
when I'm there. But yes, we
Glory,
need.
hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much,
Good.
my brother. All right, thank you, GHK Lall there. Tomorrow night, Amanza Walton Desir is going to be here. We're going to continue our discussion. Thank you all, as always, for your informed comments. Thank you all very much for staying with me, staying with us, staying with this program. Clearly, when we started 3 years ago, we didn't realize where we would be 3 years later. But here we are, doing God's work, as the Christians would say, doing the ancestors' work, as the Africanists and the Indianists and the and others would say, and doing the people's work, as the revolutionaries would say. It's work to be done. Our own CLR James of Trinidad and Tobago and world fame said there is always something to be done. There's always something to be done. Where is Dion Warwick saying, "Don't make me over"? Or singing Sandra saying, "Voices from the ghetto." Crying, 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 crying out, but not losing hope. We are pressing on. We are pressing on because we have a date with destiny, as CLR James said, a date. And we have to have a date with destiny because we were hauled from the shores of Africa and from the inner cities and the ghettos of India. And we were taken from the shores of Madeira and China. And we were brought here to link up with our Amerindian brothers and sisters who had been trying to make sense of what we now call Guyana. And the mix and the rubbing up together, we have created a kalaloo, a cook-up, a dal and rice, all mixed up together. And it's only a Guyanese or a Caribbean stomach. You can eat a little cook-up at 10 o'clock. And you can put a little dal and rice panda at 1 o'clock. And then you're going to throw in some salt fish and bake at 6 o'clock. And then you wash the dung with some nice El Dorado. I like the 8-year-old. Or if you don't touch the devil, you wash it down with some sorrel or some ginger beer. Or if you don't want that and you want to go in between, you can do some shandy. Only a Caribbean stomach can put all of that together and churn up in there. Any other people put them all of that on the stomach, they vomit like a dog. Only we could put all of that on one stomach. And we walking still and keeping our head. It's good to be Guyanese. It's good to be Guyanese. I had some saltfish this weekend. I had fried fish. They looked me after good this weekend. I had saltfish, I had fried fish. I had some old-time poor American food, canned beef. That is a thing, you know, lad, when you first come to America, you're knocked out with dark. Nowadays, I just feel like some canned beef every now and again, or some sardine and thing. All of that. And then with some nice Corilla and beef. Look, this weekend I put them in, pack it in on the stomach. Only we Guyanese or West Indian can do that. And then when the cook a half pack of split piece dal, and the dal, by the time you said Jack Robinson, the half pack dal gone, and the cook get the views in. What kind of half pack dal? Again. Tomorrow, Amanza, Walton, Desire gonna be here, and you know she's a favorite. She's a golden girl, as they say, of our program. See you all tomorrow. We're doing it because we have to do it. We can't stop, because if we stop, they're gonna be glad that we stop, so they can say we are quitters. We are not quitters. We come from good stock. And as my elder would say, in eloquent language, this confounded nonsense must stop. And this confounded nonsense is stopping. Thanks to our teachers. And we are still doing it. Love you all.